Welcome back to another episode of Down in 216, hosted by your boy Will here, man. How y'all doing? How y'all feeling today as we get into another interesting video topic? Now, look, coming back to you guys with another interesting video. So today we're going to be getting into the training camp. First day of camp has officially begun and started for the Cleveland Browns. All the rookies reported a couple days ago. I think that was on maybe Monday. Then on the vets reported yesterday. And I think this looks like one of the first official days of training camp for the Cleveland Browns. As we go into camp, we're going to be talking about our biggest storylines and what to look for in camp, what to not look for, what to pay attention to. And at the end of the day, what is everything going to be determined by? It's going to be a couple different storylines. First thing first, we got our running back situation. We got Quinshon Judkins right now still not signed to the team. And on top of that, he's still dealing with his legal situation. They say they take it very, very seriously, despite us constantly having legal situations, which I kind of find silly. But nonetheless, he's still dealing with his situation. To update you guys on the Quinshon Judkins situation, it does sound like he did punch this girl in the mouth and beat her. He hit her multiple times, multiple bruises. And if you guys go back to watch the last video I did on Quinshon Judkins, I said that, I'm going to wait till the facts come out. But if it's a story where he's hitting on a girl, I'm not going to be okay with that, because it's going to be the second story in a row where we have got an Ohio State quarterback. I don't know why my light just went out. Where we have got an Ohio State player that essentially hit a female. I mean, Mike Cole just did it last year. I'm not accusing Mike Cole of anything. I mess with Mike, but it's another guy from Ohio State that came to the Browns that caused some type of a interaction that didn't go well with a woman. Not to mention, we already got a history of players with women issues. Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt. It's been multiple different scenarios or issues with Cleveland Browns and players. Jim Brown. If you guys know about Jim Brown, do some research. So what I will say is unfortunate. I really dislike what I heard. It don't look good for Quinshon. I hope he gets whatever he deserves as far as the suspension. As far as with the team, obviously they're going to give him a second chance because he's a second-round pick. But I do find it kind of disturbing that what he did, if it's true, I don't think it's nothing that justifies hitting a woman, no matter what he's seen in her phone or in his phone that led to that altercation happening. Moving off that, it's going to be very interesting. Now, they're saying Jerome Ford is the running back one entering camp. Don't know how I feel about that. Jerome Ford is Jerome Ford. So I do think that if Dylan Sampson, and we'll get to him, but if Dylan Sampson is decent, he's going to be running back one. So we're going to see how it is and how it goes as far as what the running back room looks like. Right now, it's Jerome Ford room to lose. I do think that Dylan Sampson, if you go look at his numbers, he had multiple games over 100 yards. I think he averaged 5.9 a carry. One of the greatest running backs in Tennessee history. Runs a 4.4. If he could get some good blocks out there, I think Dylan Sampson is going to make some things and make some noise for this Cleveland Browns team. I think he's capable. I think just because Quinshon Judkins got drafted first, we're really big on Dylan Sampson. I think we're going to find out sooner rather than later that this Cleveland Browns team is going to be A-okay. I do think Dylan Sampson is going to be good enough in a running back room, relying off him. And I think it's going to make Quinshon Judkins come back, and this Cleveland Browns team can look up and have a two-headed horse, at the running back position. So we're going to see. Now, with Quinshon, it's going to be telling what happens with his legal situation. How long he gets suspended. They saying he's going to get at least 6 games right now is what I'm hearing. It might be more than that based off the story. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. Moving on next, we got our tight end room. I think this Browns tight end room is in very good condition. We got Hannafin Jr. and David Njoku. I think Njoku is very capable of having the greatest season of his career. I think he's very capable of being a top 5 tight end. I think he's very capable of being a top 3 tight end. I think David Njoku, if he could play fully healthy and get the correct targets in a good system with the right QB, with the right QB, I think he'll be great. And yeah, I think he's already a top 5 pass blocker. He's a top 5 catcher of the football as far as at the tight end position. So I don't see why he can't be a top 3 tight end. I'm going to just go out and say that. Hannafin Jr. is not a slouch. Pass catching wise, I think this is going to be a very, very savvy and good tight end room. A very underrated tight end room. I think the Cleveland Browns team might have the best tight end room in the division, if not the second best. You know, Pittsburgh do got Jonnu Smith, so we're going to see if he able to repeat some of the stuff he did. But and they do got Firemouth as well. So we shall see. But I do think Cannon Fenton Jr. is being slightly slept on. Getting into this offensive line, no injuries, so that's all we can really hope for. Shedeur Sanders did go out there and play with the third-string offensive line. They got absolutely killed against the defensive line, so something to watch. Hopefully our defensive line is actually good this year if our third-stringers is getting off like that. You know, we shall see. Speaking of quarterbacks, we had Shedeur Sanders, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel actually had a pretty decent practice. He did throw a long ball to, I forgot, I think it was the Woo guy. I can't think of his name, but he's our rookie from actual Kent State, I think, or he's somewhere out of Mentor. He threw him. He was wide open. The ball was kind of underthrown, but, you know, I'm not going to nitpick and beat a dead horse. This video is sponsored by Detrimental Figures, my brand here. As y'all see, some of the quality of my recent work. You get a signature tag on it as well. You know, we make and really emphasize quality over quantity. So, you know, we try to take and make sure we use the best materials to come up with our shirts and the best designs. Make sure y'all following us on Instagram, Detrimental Figures. So y'all can also get the description down below and hit the link for a shirt. Everything I drop is limited edition. So unfortunately, this shirt is sold out. I don't have any more, but I have different things coming up similar to it. So keep in mind, and I'll keep you guys updated with some of my new stuff throughout these videos coming up. It's not too much that I do expect from Dylan Gabriel, but the ball was overthrown. But nonetheless, it looked like Flacco and everybody else had a pretty business as usual. Joe Flacco didn't get any first-team reps, so I'm assuming that's going to change. He didn't get any 11-on-11 reps, so I'm assuming that's going to change. Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both went 6 for 7, though. Shedeur struggled. Didn't really get a chance to get the ball out. When you go back and look at the film, he went 3 of 8. So, it's not really nothing I could take from that. We're going to see if the rotation changed and how this team look. I think the biggest thing going to be when we get to the preseason, how do these quarterbacks look? If we go back to Cleveland Browns history, we remember DTR outplayed Josh Dobbs back in the preseason and got Josh Dobbs traded. So it's going to be very telling to see who's the best rookie and who's the best quarterback. Obviously, I think Joe Flacco's better than Kenny Pickett. So I think the preseason is going to be the biggest tell. We're going to hear stuff and as far as mini camp and training camp. But at the end of the day, this has never been a story where people follow the stats of a quarterback. So it's nothing that we can never really take too seriously. And if you even combine the OTAs with today's first practice of training camp, Shedeur Sanders still leads in all categories. So it's going to be very interesting and very telling. I don't think it's really that big of a deal for him to have it if he practiced, we going to see when he get out there with the second team and the first team. He was playing with the third string team right there. So we'll see. I'm not too worried about that. As far as the defense goes, Myles Garrett came out and spoke on how he thinks the Browns should win the Super Bowl this year and how he can win Defensive Player of the Year. I do think him saying that sounds a little fucking silly, and it kind of puts a unnecessary target on our back in the media, but who cares, if you want to go out and say stuff like that, good for him. But this Cleveland Browns team isn't close to winning the Super Bowl no time soon. I think he knows that. I think everybody knows that. So him saying that, I don't understand what gimmick he's trying to prove, but I'm going to still rock with Myles because that's my dog. You know what I'm saying? If he say we need to win a Super Bowl, then we need to win a Super Bowl. But him winning Defensive Player of the Year is something I talked about already. I do think he's capable of winning Defensive Player of the Year. I actually dropped a video on that a couple weeks ago. Make sure y'all check that out. It actually ain't get that much views. Maybe y'all just don't want to talk about Myles. I don't blame y'all. But nonetheless, he talked about how he wants to win Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's capable of that. Also spoke on Martin Emerson, wanting to prove that he's that guy. Martin Emerson is in a contract year. So it's going to be very telling to see who is Martin Emerson. He was a Pro Bowler, could have been a Pro Bowler in 2023, and then 2024 he was cooked all year. So we don't know. We don't know. This defense is going to come down to heart and belief. It seems as if the defense right now leans towards believing in Shedeur Sanders. It seems that the players lead towards believing in Shedeur Sanders. If you watch Nightcap by Ocho and Shannon, Ocho went out and said Denzel Ward straight up told him that Shedeur looks like the best quarterback out there. So, like I said, y'all, at the end of the day, the preseason will be the biggest tell of who is actually good. We're going to see if Mark Emerson can make a bounce back. This defensive line does sound like it improved, so that is very telling. I do think Myles Garrett is capable of winning Defensive Player of the Year. And I do think this Cleveland Browns team is going to be a little bit better than what people expect. I see our over-under is at 5 wins. I know a lot of people think we're going to be horrible, but I know this Browns team, and usually when people think we're going to be horrible, we surprise people. So it's going to really come down to who's the quarterback and is he good. If Shedeur Sanders is good, this Browns team is going to probably win 7-8 games. If we don't have a quarterback, this Browns team is probably going to only win like 3 games. So we're going to see, man. It's going to be very, very interesting. We got to keep in mind we still got the best player in the world down there with Myles Garrett. So, you know, the defense is going to be a top 10 defense as long as they try. So if the offense isn't bottom in the league, this team is going to be 7-win good. So we're going to see. It's going to be very telling. You guys comment down below if we should do like a record prediction. I haven't even went through and did that yet. I usually do one every year, but I haven't went through and did that yet. Last year I went pretty bad. I thought we was going to go like 12-5, and we won 3 games. So got to be a little bit more realistic with myself this year about how this team going to pan out and be. So y'all hit that like and subscribe button if y'all want to see that. It's your boy Will. I'm out.